The cold metal chair at the police station felt like ice against my back. But it was nothing compared to the chill that ran through me when I remembered what was inside that beautiful mahogany box. My hands were still shaking, and Detective Morrison kept refilling my coffee cup, though I couldn't taste anything anymore. Just 3 weeks ago, I was Minerva Moon, a happy 32-year-old kindergarten teacher in suburban Cleveland, Ohio, worried about nothing more than finger paint stains and parent-teacher conferences. Now I was sitting here, lucky to be alive, all because of an inheritance that should have been a blessing. It started with a phone call from Aunt Beatrice's lawyer. I was in the middle of teaching my kids how to tie their shoes when the principal knocked on my classroom door. "Important call," she mouthed, and something in her expression made my stomach drop. The lawyer's voice was formal but kind. "Miss Moon, I'm sorry for your loss. Your Aunt Beatrice passed away last Tuesday." I sat down hard in the principal's office chair. Aunt Beatrice, the only family member who ever really saw me, who taught me to play piano on her antique music boxes, who smelled like lavender and always had butterscotch candies in her purse. "She's left you her entire estate," the lawyer continued. "The sum total is approximately $890,000, plus her collection of antique music boxes." I nearly dropped the phone. Before I share what happened next, I want to say thank you for listening to my story. If you're finding this helpful or interesting, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. Your support means the world to me. The news of the inheritance spread through our family like wildfire. My older brother Dylan called within hours. At 38, he'd always been Mom's golden child, the one who could do no wrong, even when he was doing everything wrong. His voice was silk over steel when he spoke. "Hey sis, heard about Aunt Beatrice? Such a shame. I'm assuming we'll split everything equally, right? I mean, I was her only nephew." "Dylan," I said carefully. "The lawyer said she left everything to me." The silence was deafening. Then came the explosion. "That's impossible. I'm the oldest. I'm the one who deserves—" He caught himself, voice shifting to fake sweetness. "I mean, surely there's been some mistake. That old bat was probably senile. That old bat. The woman who raised us for 3 summers when Mom was going through her rough patch. The woman who paid for Dylan's car when he turned 16, though he never visited her after that." Strange things started happening after that call. I'd see the same gray sedan behind me on my way to work 3 days in a row. Phone calls where someone breathed heavily but never spoke. My recycling bin was knocked over, papers scattered, like someone had been going through them. My husband Marcus noticed it too. "Babe, that car's following us again," he said one evening as we drove home from dinner. Marcus had served as military police for 8 years before we met, and his instincts were rarely wrong. Started when we left the restaurant, made every turn we did. I wanted to believe it was paranoia, that grief and sudden wealth were making us jumpy. But then came that Thursday afternoon. I was grading papers. Marcus was in the garage working on his motorcycle when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a delivery driver with a package that required signature. The box was beautiful. Mahogany wood with brass corners that caught the light. It was heavier than it looked, maybe 15 pounds, wrapped in expensive cream paper with a gold ribbon. The return address made my heart skip. Dylan Moon, with his Chicago address. I carried the box inside, setting it on our kitchen island. There was an envelope attached with my name in Dylan's handwriting. The same dramatic swoops he'd used since high school when he thought he'd become a famous artist. Inside, the card read, "Congratulations, sis. You deserve this. Let bygones be bygones. Love, Dylan." Marcus came in, wiping grease from his hands. "What's that? Gift from Dylan? He's apologizing, I guess?" Marcus's expression darkened. My husband isn't a suspicious man by nature, but 6 years of marriage meant he knew all about Dylan. The borrowed $5,000 for a business opportunity that turned out to be a pyramid scheme. The time he sold our grandmother's jewelry claiming she'd given it to him. The family reunion where he got drunk and announced I was only Mom's favorite because I was too stupid to be a threat. "Minerva, when has your brother ever apologized for anything?" He was right. Dylan had a pattern. He'd take what he wanted, and when confronted, he'd either deny it or twist it. So somehow he was the victim. Like that time in high school when he stole my babysitting money for concert tickets, then told Mom I'd given it to him and was lying for attention. I studied the box more carefully. The mahogany was pristine, with intricate carvings of flowers and vines along the edges. There was an old-fashioned lock mechanism, though it wasn't locked, just a decorative latch holding it closed. Something about it seemed familiar, like one of Aunt Beatrice's music boxes, but not quite. "It's beautiful," I admitted, running my finger along the brass corner. Then I noticed it, a faint chemical smell, like the pest control spray from my classroom. Marcus picked up the box, his face thoughtful. "Weight's all wrong," he muttered, tilting it gently. "Too heavy for just wood, but the weight's not distributed evenly. It's concentrated in the middle. And there's movement." "Movement?" "Like something shifting inside, but barely." He set it down carefully. "When did Dylan become a woodworker?" "He didn't. He can barely hammer a nail straight." I remembered his attempt to build a birdhouse in shop class. It looked like a drunk beaver's fever dream. Even the teacher couldn't hide his amusement. That's when Mrs. Henderson from next door knocked. She's one of those neighbors who knows everything, but in a helpful way, like a benevolent spy. "Minerva, dear, I don't mean to pry, but was that your brother's rental car yesterday? The blue Honda?" My blood went cold. Dylan was here. Well, I assumed it was him. Looked just like him, sitting in the car for about an hour, just watching your house. I thought maybe you two were meeting up and he was early. He drove off when Marcus came home. Marcus and I exchanged glances. Dylan lived in Chicago, a 5-hour drive. Why would he come here, watch our house, and not even knock? I thought about Aunt Beatrice then, really thought about her. The last time I'd seen her, a month before she died, she'd pulled me aside at her 85th birthday party. "Minerva, sweetling," she'd said, using her pet name for me. "I need you to know something. I've made provisions in my will, and they might upset some people. Dylan, especially. He's been calling me lately, visiting suddenly after years of nothing. He thinks I don't notice the missing silverware, the way he photographs my things. Promise me you'll be careful." I'd promised, thinking she was being paranoid. Aunt Beatrice had always been sharp as a tack, but 85 was 85. Now, looking at this box, I wondered if she'd been trying to warn me. Marcus was examining the box with a small flashlight from his toolkit. "Minerva," he said slowly, "come look at this." I leaned in where he was pointing. Along the decorative pattern were tiny holes, so small you'd think they were part of the design, but they were too uniform, too deliberately placed. "Those are ventilation holes," Marcus said, his voice tight. "Something in this box needs to breathe." I reached for the latch, my fingers almost touching the brass, when Marcus grabbed my hand. "Don't open it. Can't you see?" Marcus's voice was urgent now, his military training kicking in. He pulled me back from the kitchen island. "Those holes, the weight, the chemical smell. Minerva, there's something alive in there." My mind raced. Dylan wouldn't, he couldn't. But then I remembered the summer he put a snake in my bed, because I told Mom about him sneaking out. The time he left raw chicken in my locker before spring break because I'd beaten him for valedictorian. He called them pranks, but they always had an edge of cruelty. Marcus was already on the phone with 911. "I need police and possibly animal control at 432 Maple Street. We've received a suspicious package that we believe contains live animals, possibly dangerous." His voice was calm, professional. "I'm former military police Staff Sergeant Marcus Moon. The package has ventilation holes and chemical residue. We've isolated it and evacuated the immediate area." The dispatcher took him seriously. Marcus had that effect on people. We waited in the living room. That box sitting on our kitchen island like a ticking bomb. The longest 10 minutes of my life. Every little sound made me jump. Was that a scratch from inside the box? A movement? I couldn't help but think about all the times Dylan had pushed boundaries. Like when we were kids and he'd convinced me to touch the electric fence at our uncle's farm, saying it was turned off. The shock had knocked me backward, and he'd laughed until he cried while I sobbed. Or in college, when he told my boyfriend I was cheating on him with a professor. Completely false, but the damage was done. My phone buzzed. Sarah, my teaching assistant. "Hey, weird question, but did you have a brother visit the school? Some guy was asking about your schedule, saying he was your brother wanting to surprise you. Security didn't let him in without clearance, but thought you should know." The pieces were clicking together in the worst possible way. Dylan checking my schedule, watching our house, and now this gift arriving when he knew I'd be home alone. Marcus usually worked late on Thursdays, but he'd taken the day off to fix his bike. I pulled out the letter from Aunt Beatrice I'd kept in my purse since the lawyer gave it to me. Her handwriting was shaky but clear. My dearest Minerva, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you've inherited what I've built. It's all yours, sweetly, every penny. You're the only one who visited me without wanting something, who helped me without being asked. Dylan will try to take what's yours. He's already tried with me. Be smarter than he thinks you are. You always have been. The police arrived. 2 cruisers and an unmarked van. Detective Morrison introduced herself. A woman about 50 with sharp eyes and graying hair pulled back tight. Mr. Moon briefed us. We're going to handle this very carefully. A young officer with specialized equipment approached the box. He had a thermal imaging device, some kind of scope. His partner stood ready with thick gloves and a containment unit. The officer looked through the scope, adjusting something, peering closer. Then his face went white as paper. He stepped back, nearly knocking into the island. "Detective," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "We need the bomb squad protocol. Now," Marcus muttered. "Kid looks like he just saw his ex-mother-in-law at his wedding. This can't be good." "It's not a bomb," the officer said quickly, seeing our panic. "But, Detective, you need to see this." He handed her the thermal scope. Detective Morrison looked through it, her expression hardening. "Everyone out of the house. Now." We evacuated to the front yard while the specialized team arrived. Men in what looked like modified hazmat suits entered our home. Neighbors gathered, Mrs. Henderson clutching her cat, the Johnsons from across the street whispering. I heard one of them say, "Inherited nearly $1 million," and wanted to disappear. After what felt like hours, but was probably 20 minutes, Detective Morrison approached us. Her face was grim. "Mrs. Moon." The box contained approximately 3 dozen brown recluse spiders. They appear to have been deliberately collected and, based on their agitated state, starved for several days to increase aggression. I felt my knees buckle. Marcus caught me, his arms strong around my waist. Brown recluse spiders. Their venom causes necrosis, flesh-eating damage that can lead to amputation or death. "If you'd opened that box normally," the detective continued, reaching in to see what was inside, "you would have sustained multiple bites on your hands and arms." The spiders were positioned to scatter upward and outward. An expert from the university was called in, Dr. Chen, who specialized in arachnids. He examined the spiders after they'd been contained. "These aren't local," he said. "Brown recluses aren't common in Ohio. Someone had to specifically source these, probably from an exotic pet dealer. They've been kept without food for at least a week. You can tell by their metabolic state. They're desperately hungry, which would make them bite repeatedly." The investigation moved quickly after that. Within hours, they traced the wooden box to a custom furniture shop in Chicago, paid for in cash. But the owner remembered Dylan because he'd been so specific about the dimensions and the need for proper ventilation. The spiders were traced to an exotic pet dealer 2 states away, where Dylan had used his credit card. "He didn't think we'd trace it if you were dead," Detective Morrison explained. "Most spider bite deaths are ruled as tragic accidents, especially if the victim has a severe allergic reaction." Dr. Chen pulled me aside. "You need to understand how lucky you are," he said quietly. "With that many bites, even if you survived, you'd likely have permanent damage, nerve damage, tissue death, chronic pain, and that's assuming you got to the hospital in time." My phone rang. "Dylan." I looked at Detective Morrison, who nodded and mouthed, "Speaker." "Hey, sis." Dylan's voice was bright, fake cheerful. "Did you get my package? I wanted to send something special to celebrate your windfall." I did get it," I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. "Haven't opened it yet, though." "Oh, you should. It's perfect for you. Took me forever to find just the right thing. Open it when you're alone, though. It's kind of personal, you know? About Aunt Beatrice." The detective was writing frantically, recording everything. "I'll do that," I said. "Dylan, this was really thoughtful." "Well, families forgive each other, right? Water under the bridge." "Hey, I might drive down next week. We could have dinner?" "Sure," I lied. "That sounds nice." After he hung up, Detective Morrison looked grim. "We've been investigating similar cases. 3 inheritances in the past 5 years. All suspicious deaths shortly after. Spider bites, snake bites, severe allergic reactions. Your brother's name came up in 2 of them as a business associate of the deceased. I thought I might be sick. He's done this before? We could never prove anything, but now. She held up an evidence bag with a receipt. We found this in the box lining. He got sloppy. This is from the exotic pet dealer. Timestamp showing he bought them 3 days ago. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, her phone rang. She answered, her face growing more serious with each word. After hanging up, she turned to us. That was our digital forensics team. They got a warrant for your brother's phone records. He purchased a life insurance policy on you 2 weeks ago, right after the inheritance was announced. $1 million with himself as beneficiary. But that's illegal, Marcus protested. You can't just take out insurance on someone without their knowledge. He forged her signature, also illegal and also sloppy. He used the wrong middle initial. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice, crying. Is this Minerva? I'm Ashley, Dylan's girlfriend. I'm scared. He doesn't know I'm calling. I found things on his computer, searches about poisonous spiders, about how long venom takes to... God, I think he's planning something terrible. Before I could respond, I wanted to take a moment to thank everyone listening. Your support means everything to me during this nightmare. If this story is helping you or someone you know, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Every bit of support helps me share these important warnings with others. Ashley continued through her tears. There's more. He hired someone, a mechanic. I heard him on the phone saying something about brake lines and making it look like an accident. You need to check your car. Marcus was already running to the garage. I heard him yell to the officers, and suddenly our driveway was full of uniforms around our Honda. The mechanical inspector confirmed it within minutes. Our brake lines had been cut nearly through, designed to fail completely under hard braking. When did you last drive this? The inspector asked. Yesterday, I said numbly, to get groceries. You're lucky. Another day, maybe 2, and they would have failed completely. Probably on the highway. Detective Morrison's phone rang again. This time her face went from serious to urgent. We need to move you to a safe house. Now, Dylan just booked a flight to Cleveland. He lands in 3 hours. Ashley was still on the phone, whispering now. I'm in his apartment. He doesn't know I have his laptop password. Oh God, there's so much here. He has a whole folder labeled Aunt B Estate. There are documents, forged signatures, medical articles about spider venom and untraceable poisons. Detective Morrison had us on speaker in the police van as we headed to the safe house. Ashley, this is Detective Morrison. You're being very brave. Can you send those files to my email? I'm scared he'll know. Ashley sobbed. He tracks everything on my phone. Use his laptop to email them, the detective instructed. Then delete the sent mail. We'll protect you, I promise. 20 minutes later, the detective's phone pinged repeatedly as files came through. Her face grew darker with each one. Your brother's been planning this for months. He has your daily routine mapped out. Photos of your house from every angle, even your jogging route. Marcus held my hand tighter. The jogger, I gasped. There's been this guy jogging past our house every morning, same time I leave for work. Baseball cap, sunglasses. I thought he just had the same schedule. That wasn't Dylan, though, Marcus said. Build was wrong. Plus, the guy could actually run without wheezing like a broken accordion. The detective nodded. He probably hired someone to watch you. Ashley just sent a Venmo history. Multiple payments to someone named Jake Torres with notes like consulting and research. We arrived at the safe house, a nondescript 2-story in a quiet suburb. As we settled in, the detectives team worked through the evidence. The full picture was terrifying. Dylan had researched everything. How long inheritance contestation took, how suspicious deaths were investigated, even which funeral homes offered cremation discounts. There's something else, Detective Morrison said. The inheritance has a clause. If you die within 30 days of receiving it, it automatically transfers to the next of kin. That's Dylan. 30 days? I counted quickly. That's next Tuesday. Only 5 days away, which explains why he's escalating. The spiders didn't work. The brakes failed. Time's running out. He's probably panicking like a student who forgot their final exam. My phone rang. The lawyer, Mr. Peterson. Miss Moon, I'm calling because I just received an odd inquiry. Your brother's attorney is asking about inheritance contingencies, specifically about what happens if you were to become incapacitated rather than deceased. Incapacitated? Yes, mentally incompetent, unable to manage your affairs. It's quite unusual. I told them nothing, of course, but thought you should know. After I hung up, Ashley sent another file. This one made my blood run cold. Dylan had been researching drugs that cause permanent psychosis, how to slip them to someone undetected, which combinations would be untraceable after 72 hours. He's getting desperate, the detective said. But here's what doesn't make sense. Your aunt was very wealthy, but she was also very smart. Would she really leave such an obvious loophole? That's when I remembered something. There's a second envelope. Mr. Peterson said I shouldn't open it until the 30 days passed. Aunt Beatrice's specific instructions. Call him. Tell him it's a police emergency. Mr. Peterson agreed to come to the safe house immediately. While we waited, more evidence poured in. The private investigator Dylan hired, Jake Torres, had cracked under police questioning. He admitted Dylan paid him to watch me, but swore he didn't know about any murder plot. He thought it was about contesting the will legally. Then came the biggest revelation. Dr. Chen called the detective. I've been thinking about those spiders. The chemical smell Mrs. Moon noticed? That's not pest control. That's pheromone spray. It's used to make spiders more aggressive, to trigger feeding responses. Whoever prepared this knew exactly what they were doing. How would Dylan know that? Marcus asked. Ashley had the answer in another file. He took an entomology course online 6 months ago, specifically about venomous arachnids. Paid for it with Aunt Beatrice's credit card. He must have stolen the number. Mr. Peterson arrived with the sealed envelope and a metal box. His hands shook as he handed them over. Your aunt gave me specific instructions. If you were in danger before the 30 days ended, I was to bring you both items. I opened the envelope first. Aunt Beatrice's handwriting filled 3 pages. My dearest Minerva, if you're reading this before the 30 days have passed, then Dylan has shown his true colors. I'm not surprised. He's been circling me like a vulture for 2 years, and I've been watching him right back. The inheritance you received is real, but it's not everything. That was bait, sweetling. The real inheritance is in the trust I've hidden, worth $2.3 million. I had to sit down. Marcus read over my shoulder as we continued. I knew Dylan would try something if he thought you got everything, so I made sure he would think that. The 30-day clause, I added that specifically to force his hand. You see, I've been recording everything. Every visit where things went missing, every forged check he thought I didn't notice, every little poison he put in my tea. Poison? I gasped. The letter continued. Oh yes, dear one. Your brother has been slowly poisoning me for 18 months. Not enough to kill quickly, just enough to make me deteriorate. He didn't know I had my doctor running toxicology screens every week. It's all documented. But I needed him to do something more obvious, something that would put him away forever. You, my brave girl, are my trap. The metal box contained USB drives, medical records, bank statements, and a smaller envelope marked for Dylan's arrest. Inside was a notarized statement from Aunt Beatrice, detailing everything, along with video files on the USBs. Detective Morrison plugged in the first USB. It was security footage from Aunt Beatrice's home. Dylan stealing her jewelry, putting something in her tea, going through her financial documents. The timestamp showed it was from 6 months ago. She knew, I whispered. She knew everything. There's more, the detective said, reading ahead in the letter. She hired her own private investigator. Not Jake Torres, someone else. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number. Minerva Moon. My name is Robert Chen. No relation to the doctor. Beatrice Moon was my biological mother. She gave me up for adoption 60 years ago, but we reconnected 5 years ago. I'm a licensed private investigator who consults with the FBI on elder abuse cases. Your aunt hired me specifically because of my federal connections. I'm outside the safe house now. The police can verify my credentials. My cousin. I had a cousin. Detective Morrison went to check, returning with a tall man in his 60s, distinguished looking with kind eyes that reminded me of Aunt Beatrice. He carried a briefcase. Mother knew Dylan would escalate, Robert said. As a PI with FBI liaison status, I've been coordinating with federal agents for 3 years. Dylan's done this before in 2 other states. We have evidence linking him to suspicious deaths of 2 elderly people he befriended. Both left him small inheritances after their children died in accidents. Why didn't she just go to the police earlier? I asked. She wanted him stopped permanently. If she'd reported the poisoning, he'd get maybe 5 years. She wanted him caught attempting murder with federal charges. She was quite ruthless when it came to protecting you. Suddenly, the detective's radio crackled. Subject is not on the flight from Chicago. Repeat, Dylan Moon was not on that plane. Where is he? Morrison demanded. Another voice came through. His credit card just pinged. Gas station 5 miles from your location. He drove instead of flying. That's when we heard it, a car door slamming outside. Through the safe house window, we could see Dylan walking up the driveway, carrying another wrapped box in a bouquet of flowers. How did he find us? I whispered, panic rising. Detective Morrison was already on her radio. All units, subject is at the location. Do not engage. We need this recorded. She turned to me. He must have followed the lawyer. We have units surrounding the house. You're safe. But Minerva, if you're willing, this is our chance to get him on tape. You want me to talk to him? Only if you feel safe. We'll be in the next room, watching everything. Robert has been recording from across the street. We have multiple angles. One confession, one threat, and he's done. Marcus squeezed my hand. You don't have to do this. But I thought of Aunt Beatrice, slowly being poisoned, pretending not to notice so she could protect me. I'll do it. They wired me up quickly. A tiny microphone hidden in my collar. Officers positioned themselves in the adjacent rooms. Morrison handed me an earpiece. If you feel unsafe at any moment, say the word coffee, and we move in. The doorbell rang. I answered it, trying to keep my hands steady. Dylan stood there with his brightest fake smile, flowers in one hand, another ornate box in the other. This one was painted gold with red ribbons. Sis, surprise! I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd check on you. I heard you had some kind of police issue? How did you know where I was? Oh, I saw Peterson's car leaving your house, followed him here. Figured you might need family support. His eyes glinted. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He entered, looking around casually, but I could see him checking exits, windows. Nice place. Temporary? Just for a few days. The police think someone's been threatening me. Threatening you? His concern was almost convincing. Who would threaten my little sister? I'll kill them myself. Actually, I said carefully, they think it's about the inheritance. He set down the flowers and box on the coffee table. Well, desperate people do desperate things. Good thing I'm here now. Family should stick together in times like this. Is that why you sent the spiders? The words hung in the air. Dylan's mask slipped for just a second before he laughed. Spiders? What are you talking about? The brown recluses in the mahogany box. I sent you a music box, one of Aunt Beatrice's. If someone put spiders in it, they must have intercepted the package. How horrible. His performance was almost good enough for community theater. Almost. I'd seen better acting from my kindergartners, pretending they didn't eat the Play-Doh. And the brake lines? His eye twitched. What about brake lines? Someone cut them. My God. Thank goodness you're okay. He moved toward me, arms out for a hug. I stepped back. His face darkened slightly. Minerva, you can't possibly think I would ever hurt you? You put a snake in my bed when we were kids. That was a prank. We were children. You poisoned Aunt Beatrice. The mask dropped completely. His face went cold, calculating. You can't prove that. Actually, she proved it herself. Weekly toxicology reports for 18 months. He was silent for a long moment, then smiled. It wasn't his fake smile anymore. This was real Dylan, the one who'd pulled wings off butterflies, who'd laughed when I cried. Clever old bat. Should have used something stronger. In my earpiece, Morrison whispered, "Keep him talking." Why? I asked Dylan. She loved you. She loved you. He corrected. I was just the spare, the backup grandchild. Even Mom loved you more. Pretty little Minerva with her perfect grades and her kindergarten teacher dreams. Do you know how much I've had to scrape for everything while you just floated through life? So you killed people for money? I survived, he snapped. Those old people were going to die anyway. I just accelerated the timeline. They were lonely, pathetic. I gave them attention, made their last months meaningful. By poisoning them? You make it sound so crude. He picked up the golden box. It's an art, really. Finding the right dose, the right substance. Something that mimics natural decline. Doctors never look too closely at elderly deaths. But I'm not elderly. No, he agreed, moving closer. You required creativity. The spiders were inspired, you have to admit. If you hadn't married G.I. Joe over there, it would have worked. Marcus is listening to this, I said. Dylan laughed. No, he's not. I saw him leave with the cops 10 minutes ago. Nice try, though. He was wrong. Marcus was in the kitchen, fists clenched, held back only by Morrison's firm hand on his shoulder. Open the new box, Dylan said, his voice different now, threatening. This one's special. What's in it? Just open it. Last gift from your big brother. I reached for it slowly, in my earpiece. Box was intercepted earlier. It's safe. Snake inside was defanged. I opened the latch. Inside, coiled and agitated, was a coral snake, beautiful and deadly, except for the missing fangs Dylan didn't know about. Red touches yellow. Kill a fellow, Dylan sang. Coral snakes have neurotoxin, much faster than spider venom. You'd be dead in an hour. I gasped, playing my part. You're insane. I'm practical. Do you know what I could do with that money? The life I deserve? While you'd waste it on crayons and construction paper for snot-nosed brats. The 30 days are almost up. You've lost. His smile was terrible. Oh, sis, I've got 5 more days. And now that you're here, alone with a deadly snake. He pulled on gloves from his pocket. Tragic accident. Girl inherits money. Stress makes her careless with exotic pet. Happens all the time. He reached for the snake. That's when I said it. I'd love some coffee right now. The doors burst open. Police flooded in from every direction. Dylan spun around, saw the officers, saw Marcus emerging from the kitchen. His face went white. Dylan Moon, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, elder abuse. Morrison's list went on as they cuffed him. You set me up, he screamed at me. You little bitch. You've always been jealous of me. This is entrapment. I couldn't help thinking he sounded exactly like my 5-year-old student Tommy when someone else got picked to be line leader. Except Tommy usually calmed down after a minute. Dylan just kept shrieking. Actually, Robert said, entering with his video equipment, it's justice. Your mother would be proud, Minerva, as they dragged Dylan away. He kept screaming about lawyers, about entrapment, about how I'd stolen everything from him. Marcus deadpanned. Well, that went better than the time my unit arrested a guy selling stolen chickens. At least Dylan didn't try to bite anyone. Even Detective Morrison cracked a smile. The last thing Dylan said before they put him in the cruiser was, I'm your brother. Family's supposed to forgive. Aunt Beatrice was family, I replied. And she didn't forgive. She just got justice. The next morning, Mr. Peterson arrived with a thick folder and that same metal box from before. Now that Dylan's been arrested, I can share everything. We sat in my actual living room. The safe house was no longer needed with Dylan in custody. Robert was there too, my newfound cousin, along with Marcus and Detective Morrison. Your aunt wrote this letter to be read after Dylan's arrest, Peterson began, pulling out several pages covered in Beatrice's careful handwriting. My dearest ones, he read, if you're hearing this, my trap worked. Dylan is where he belongs, and Minerva is safe. Let me tell you the whole truth. I knew I was dying 2 years ago. Pancreatic cancer, stage 1 when they found it. I had maybe 3 years, they said. But then Dylan started visiting. Sweet boy, he said, checking on his old auntie. The tea he brought tasted funny, but I drank it anyway. When I started feeling worse, I had my suspicions. My doctor, bless him, ran every test without Dylan knowing. Arsenic in small doses. Not enough to kill quickly, just enough to speed things along. Dylan was always impatient. I could have stopped him then, but I knew he'd just find another victim. He'd already killed Harold Finch in Denver and Margaret Cowell in Boise. Yes, I hired investigators. I know everything. So, I decided to use my death meaningfully. I changed my will to leave everything to Minerva, knowing it would trigger Dylan's greed. I added the 30-day clause because I knew he'd have to act fast. Every visit, I recorded him. Every theft, every poison dose, all documented. But I needed him to go after someone who could fight back, someone with protection. Minerva, you were never in real danger. Not with Robert watching, and the federal agents he's been working with. I looked at Robert. Federal agents? He nodded. FBI's been investigating Dylan for 3 years. Aunt Beatrice's evidence was the breakthrough they needed. Peterson continued reading. The real inheritance, my dear Minerva, isn't just money. It's freedom from Dylan forever. The trust contains $2.3 million, but more importantly, It funds a foundation for protecting elderly victims of family abuse. Robert will co-manage it with you. Dylan thought he was the smart one, playing the long game. But I've been playing longer. Every piece of missing jewelry he stole, fake. The real pieces are in a safety deposit box. Every check he forged, from an account I kept specifically for evidence. Every dose of poison he gave me, carefully measured and documented. I'm sorry for using you as bait, sweetling, but I knew Marcus would protect you, and Robert was always watching. Dylan's pattern was escalation. He'd start safe, then get reckless when frustrated. We needed him reckless. There was video footage on the USBs that shocked everyone. Aunt Beatrice had installed cameras everywhere after Dylan started visiting. We watched him go through her medicine cabinet, her financial papers, even trying on her jewelry when he thought she was napping. But the most damning evidence was a recording from just a month before she died. Dylan was on the phone, not knowing Beatrice's new hearing aid could record. The old bat's almost done. Another month, maybe 2. I've got power of attorney papers ready to forge. Minerva won't contest it. She's too soft. By the time anyone figures it out, I'll be in the Caymans. Detective Morrison shook her head. Your aunt was playing 3-dimensional chess while Dylan was playing checkers. There's one more thing, Peterson said, pulling out a small key. This is for a safety deposit box. Your aunt said you'd know where. I did know. When I was 8, Aunt Beatrice and I had tea at the Waldorf Hotel in Chicago. She told me it was our special place, just ours. She must have a box at the bank next door. That afternoon, Robert and I went to Chicago. In the safety deposit box was another surprise. Photos of Robert as a baby. Letters Beatrice had written him over the years but never sent. And a note. I gave you up because I was 16 and had no choice. Finding you again at 80 was my second greatest joy. Introducing you to Minerva is my greatest accomplishment. Take care of each other. There was also evidence of Dylan's first victim, an elderly neighbor, when he was just 19. The death was ruled natural, but Beatrice had found the poison in Dylan's old room years later, along with a journal describing his plan. She'd kept it all, building her case for decades. She protected me even before I knew I needed protection, I said. Robert squeezed my shoulder. She protected all of us. Dylan had my name on a list in his apartment. I was going to be next after you. The trial was swift. With the attempted murder caught on tape, the poisoning documented, and 3 suspicious deaths linked to him, Dylan got 25 years total, with federal charges running concurrently. He'd be 63 when eligible for parole. Still young enough to be dangerous, but old enough that his prison record would follow him forever. During the trial, more victims came forward. Elderly people who'd hired Dylan as a handyman and noticed missing items. One elderly man said he was like a reverse Santa Claus. Instead of leaving gifts, he took them. Except Santa has better hygiene and doesn't case your joint while pretending to fix your sink. The courtroom actually laughed. A woman whose mother died suspiciously after Dylan befriended her. The FBI found evidence of at least 7 victims, though they could only prove 3 deaths. Dylan's girlfriend Ashley testified against him, showing receipts for poisons, weapons, and surveillance equipment. She'd stayed with him out of fear after finding his journal detailing how he'd kill her if she left. She's in therapy now, living in another state under a new name. The best moment was when they read Dylan's own journal aloud in court. He'd written, "Minerva doesn't deserve anything. She was always the favorite, always perfect. When she's gone, everyone will see I was the one who deserved love." The prosecutor's response was perfect. Mr. Moon didn't want love. He wanted money, and he was willing to kill his own family for it. 6 months later, I stood at Aunt Beatrice's grave with fresh sunflowers, her favorites. The headstone now read, Beatrice Chen Moon, protector, detective, beloved aunt. Robert had taken his mother's maiden name to honor her. We did it, I told her. The foundation's helped 14 families already. Elder abuse cases that would have been ignored. Dylan's actually helped people, just not the way he intended. Marcus joined me, carrying a folder. The last family we helped wanted you to have this. Inside was a card signed by dozens of people. Thank you for turning pain into purpose. The Beatrice Moon Foundation for Elder Protection had become everything my aunt wanted. We used the inheritance to hire investigators, lawyers, and social workers specifically trained to spot family abuse. Robert ran the investigative side with his FBI connections, while I handled the victim support services. Dylan had written me exactly one letter from prison. "I'm your brother. You owe me forgiveness." I'd written back, "Aunt Beatrice was my family. I owe her justice." I never heard from him again. His prison experience was poetic justice. His cellmate turned out to be Victor Gonzalez, whose grandmother Dylan had poisoned in Boise. Victor had been released on appeal when Dylan's arrest revealed new evidence. The prison couldn't prove anything, but Dylan requested protective custody after just 3 weeks. As Marcus joked, "Turns out Dylan's not so tough when his victim can fight back." Who knew spiders and elderly ladies were easier targets than a 6'4" guy named Victor? He now spends 23 hours a day alone, safe, but slowly going crazy from isolation. Mrs. Henderson still lives next door. She's become the foundation's unofficial spokesperson, telling everyone about that brave girl who caught a killer. She also adopted 12 cats and named one Dylan. "He's the mean one who hisses at everyone and tries to steal the other cat's food," she says with a wink. But unlike human Dylan, cat Dylan is fixed now, so he can't reproduce his nasty attitude. She tells this joke to everyone, and it never gets old for her. The day I returned to teaching, one of my students, 5-year-old Emma, asked if my brother was in timeout. "The longest timeout ever," I said. She nodded sagely. "My brother got timeout for putting gum in my hair." Your brother must have done something really bad. If only she knew that her comparison wasn't that far off. Both involved sticky situations and someone getting caught. My kindergarten class made me a card when I returned. "Mrs. Moon is our hero," with hand-drawn spiders in jail cells. 5-year-olds have an interesting sense of justice. The best surprise came 3 months after the trial. Mr. Peterson called with news. "Your aunt left one more thing." She said to wait until Dylan's conviction to give it to you. It was a video message, recorded just days before she died. Aunt Beatrice sat in her favorite chair, looking tired but triumphant. "Minerva, sweetling, if you're watching this, then everything worked. I'm sorry for the deception, but I knew you'd never agree to be bait if you knew. You always were too good for your own good. I want you to know I wasn't afraid. The cancer would have killed me anyway." Dylan just thought he was speeding it up. Every cup of poison tea he brought, I saw as evidence. Every visit was another nail in his coffin. Use the money well, help others who can't help themselves, and remember, family isn't blood, family is choice. I chose you, sweetling, and Robert, I chose to find you. Dylan chose greed, and now he has what he chose. Live well, love freely, and if anyone ever tries to hurt you again, remember what your Aunt Beatrice taught you. Document everything and nail the bastard. Marcus and I used part of the inheritance to buy the house next to ours, turning it into a safe house for elder abuse victims. We hired counselors, nurses, and security. In the first month, we helped 3 elderly people escape abusive families. 1 year later, we had something else to celebrate. I was pregnant. Not planned, but deeply wanted. At the ultrasound, the doctor smiled. "It's a girl. Do you have any names picked?" "Beatrice," Marcus and I said together. "Beatrice Chen Moon." Robert became the baby's godfather. At the baby shower, he gave a toast to Aunt Beatrice, who knew that justice takes time, evidence, and occasionally some very angry spiders. Even the FBI agent who arrested Dylan came to the shower. "Your aunt should have been a detective," she said. "She built a better case than most prosecutors." Ashley sent a gift with a note. "Thank you for showing me that strength isn't about hurting others. It's about protecting them." She's studying to become a social worker now, specializing in domestic abuse cases. The foundation grew. We opened chapters in 5 states, all staffed by people who'd lost elderly relatives to family abuse. Our logo is a purple butterfly. Aunt Beatrice loved them because they looked delicate, but were actually tough enough to migrate thousands of miles. On what would have been Aunt Beatrice's 87th birthday, we held our first annual gala. 300 people attended, raising nearly $1 million. The keynote speaker was a prosecutor from Denver who said, "Beatrice Moon did what our system couldn't. She got justice from beyond the grave." The final surprise came when cleaning out Aunt Beatrice's house to turn it into the foundation headquarters. Hidden in her piano bench, the one where she taught me to play, was one last note. Minerva, the real treasure was never the money. It was knowing that when evil came knocking, you were strong enough to face it, you were smart enough to accept help, and you were brave enough to use your pain to protect others. That's the inheritance that matters. Also, check under the third floorboard in the attic. Under the floorboard were her real jewels, the ones Dylan thought he'd stolen, worth another $200,000, and a photo of her at 16 holding baby Robert, with writing on the back, "Someday, we'll all be together again." And now we were, in a way. The foundation board meets in her living room. Her portrait hangs over the fireplace, and every time we save an elderly person from abuse, I swear I can hear her laughing. That bright, tinkling laugh that sounded like music box chimes. Dylan will be eligible for parole in 2049. He'll be 63 years old. Ironically, still younger than most of his victims were when he targeted them. Sometimes karma takes its time, but as Aunt Beatrice proved, it always keeps perfect records, and sometimes it has a sense of humor, like making sure the would-be killer ended up living with someone whose grandma he killed. As Robert says, even karma appreciates good roommate matching. The last line of her final letter to me read, "Remember, sweetling, sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't money, but the truth that sets you free." She was right. The truth freed me from Dylan, freed Robert from not knowing his mother, and freed dozens of elderly victims from their abusers. And somewhere, in whatever comes after this life, I know Aunt Beatrice is smiling, probably playing poker with the angels and winning every hand. Because if there's one thing my aunt taught me, it's that the house doesn't always win. Sometimes the little old lady with the butterscotch candies and the secret cameras does.